What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Cameron and this is the So Well Garage. So in today's episode of Let's Build a Turbo Taco, we are going to be working on our fueling system. We have a whole bunch of parts in. This is only some of the stuff that we have in. We've got boxes and parts and junk basically everywhere. But as you can see, the 2JZ, is actually starting to look like an engine now. So I've changed my mind like countless times on this build, and I finally decided that I'm going to go full standalone ECU on this thing. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it right, and I want to have as much data as I can backing up everything. If that, well, hopefully that should make sense. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get working on our fuel system, and we're also going to work on the plumbing for the oil for our turbo. So let's go ahead and get the 2JZ out, because I think that's going to be the best way to kind of route these lines and stuff, is with as much space in this engine bay as possible. So let's go. So we're all finished up on the oiling for now. So I left myself a little bit of slack here so that way I can maybe make some brackets that come off the valve covers and then kind of like snug it up nicely like onto the valve cover, and then I'm planning on kind of going up and around and then back down into the union bolt, and that should be it for the oiling for the turbo. We have the drain there that goes back into the stock 2JZ drain location, and yeah, I'm thinking while the engine's out, probably gonna go ahead pressure wash all this stuff out so I can make the engine bay look at least somewhat clean. I don't think I'm gonna do any painting. I don't really see the need in that, since I'm gonna stick with like the dark color scheme. So let's go ahead and move on to the fueling. I think what I want to do is something kind of similar to the 2RZ here. It's got the fuel filter mounted right here. I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to mount anything here, because this is where all of the motor mounts go. Or yeah, the motor mounts sit right here on these four here. So I'm thinking I might do something on the underside of the intake. So what I saw was there was this stud here, or this mounting location here. There's here, all these different locations where I can just kind of pop it on like right there or right here. And then of course we'll have our inlet go in here, come out, and then up and into the fuel rail. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I kind of like this one the best, so I think that's what I'm going to go with. So let's go ahead and get this fueling done. So that was actually not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, but here we have the top hat fuel pump, all our good stuff, our level sensor. So I have these fittings here, which are the same as all my other AN fittings for fuel. And so these are like bulkhead connectors. So what I'm going to have to do is chop off this and just annotate that this is the fuel pump, or what's going to be the inlet to our fuel filter. And then this line here is the return, which is going to come off of our fuel pressure regulator, which is mounted right there. So that's pretty much that. We're just going to have to go ahead and start cutting stuff. I'm not too sure what to do since there is like gas in all this. So I'm going to Google it, see what like the best option is, because I don't want to throw sparks around this and they're, create an explosion or whatever. So but yeah, let's go ahead and get all this stuff cut up and get these bulkhead fittings mounted. As you can see, it's getting pretty late here. We've been working on this all day, but we finally have at least our line from the fuel pump run. You can see it's a little dirty because it's all, well, dirty and dusty in there, but temporary routing for now. The fuel top hat back in, routed everything back up and around with the brake lines that run on the frame rail. So really all I got to do now is just get the engine back in and then figure out how long we need to make this, get this put on, and then that'll at least be it for our feed line. And then we got to work on the return line, but I'm definitely not going to be able to get that done today. So let's go ahead, get the engine back in, get at least that part done, and call it a day. Alright guys, so it is actually a few days later. Work, whole bunch of other things kind of got in the way, but went ahead, removed the fuel line that we had running, and I was a little scared that this was not going to be enough to run our return line, but I marked it here for the inlet of the fuel filter, and I think we're going to have just enough. So let's go ahead, get this one cut up, put our fitting on it, and then I guess we can go ahead and start running our return line. So let's do that. Alright guys, so that is going to do it for today's episode of Let's Build a Turbo Taco. We got a whole bunch of work done in this episode. Hopefully the way that I routed everything makes sense to you guys, and that way hopefully you can also do that yourself for your own projects. From everything that I've read, it's basically better to keep the fuel pressure regulator behind the fuel rail, or after the fuel rail, if that makes sense. So that's how we did it, and all in all, I'm pretty happy with how everything is looking. It's actually looking like an engine now. We are actually getting somewhere with this, and we're one step closer to getting this thing fired up and running. So if this is the kind of stuff that you like to see, then please consider subscribing, but if not, I won't be upset. I understand. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.